All right, so chapter 5. We're going to talk about encumbrances, and we're going to talk about liens. Yesterday, I mentioned this word a couple times. Do you guys remember what encumbrance means? Saying yes? What is it? Cloud, correct. So, an encumbrance is a cloud. Now, why do we call it a cloud? Because once we have a cloud over you, it limits or restricts you. So if it's a cloudy day, right, it's not a sunny day. If it's raining, there's clouds, obviously. If there's thundering, if there's snowing, it all has to do with clouds, and it limits you. An encumbrance, when it comes to real estate, it's something that clouds the title or limits the title, therefore the sellability of the property. So every time you see encumbrance, think about a restriction. So clouds, or restriction, or limitation, whatever you want to write. If you want to write limitation, you can. You want to write restriction, you can. Okay. Title. So can you sell the property if you have a mortgage, for instance? You can, but you have to pay off the mortgage. What if the property is underwater? What does that mean? Underwater means that you borrowed $500,000, but the property went down in value. It's worth $300,000. Can you sell the property? Why not? I just thought that was the right answer. Okay, but that was real quick. How do you answer that? Because you pause first. I know. But you're right. You're also wrong. Here's the thing. If you owe more than what the property is worth, then you have to pay to sell. So can you sell? The answer is yes. You have to pay to sell. So you have to get whatever money it is that let's say the $300,000 that the property is worth. But for you to satisfy that lien, you still have to pay another $100 out of pocket. So pretty much, as Andrea M. just wrote, you lose money. Can you sell? Yes, you're just limited, clouded, it's encumbered. Okay? Now, there's different type of encumbrances. There's one called a lien, right? And there's physical encumbrances. What you need to remember about liens is that lien equals money. So if we're talking about a mortgage, this type of encumbrance is called lien. If we're talking about taxes, this type of encumbrance is called lien. Okay? So every time you see a lien, it's a money or a financial claim against the property. That's the encumbrance. That's a limitation. Can you sell the property without paying your property taxes? No. At closing, property taxes must be brought down to zero. So we got to satisfy whatever's unpaid before we can move forward. Okay? Collateral. So a lien is a collateral. Perfect. Actually, we're going to go over that. A lien is a collateral, is a security. How do we call it a security? Because if you don't pay, they come and take the property. So the house is the collateral. The house is the security. Okay? So a lien is just something we place against the property that clouds the title. Because think about this. Imagine that you get a mortgage, right? Or financing against the property, and then next day you sell the property. Who's going to pay the bank? Right? So that's why they created the lien, which is a document that's going to be recorded against the property. It's called a mortgage document. It's recorded against the property. It goes on title. So when you're trying to sell, the bank has a notification. Hey, this person's trying to sell. Or the buyer sees, I cannot buy this house because if I buy this house and the lien's not paid, they can come and take the house away. If you want, yeah. And if the bank accepts it, yeah, absolutely. I don't know why you put your single family house where you live as collateral, but yeah, you can. Okay. But what I'm saying is, I personally, if you have a single family, as an example, it's a house where you live, don't take out a mortgage, get a line of credit. I'll explain that later in a different chapter. Don't get a mortgage, get a line of credit. The difference between them is that a mortgage, if you take money out, if you cash out, it's a home equity loan, right? You get all the money. What if you don't use the money to make money, which a lot of people don't? Then now you have two payments to make. A line of credit is like a credit card. You use what you need, not what you got. I'm sorry?
Like a double mortgage, I guess?
It will be a double mortgage if you have the loan. But if you have a line of credit, it operates like a credit card. I have $1,000 limit. I spend $200. I pay it back. I have $1,000 again. Right? So way better in a scenario where you are the property where you live. Right? Because you don't want to lose your property because of a stupid mistake, and we make stupid mistakes. We're human. Right? Anyway, I'll talk better about that in a different chapter. All right. So, different types of encumbrances. Okay. All of these are encumbrances. All of them. Okay. All of these are encumbrances. Okay. There's different classifications of encumbrance. So encumbrance is anything that limits your title. It could be an easement, which I'll talk about in a second. It could be an encroachment. It could be a license. It could be a deed restriction. Liens, we just talked about. And then, of course, it takes you to foreclosure if you don't pay the liens. So these are together. Foreclosure if you don't pay the lien, right? If unpaid, right? These are encumbrances. All right. So what is an encumbrance? Again, encumbrance is an interest in and right that limits the legal owner's freehold interest. So an encumbrance is a interest in and a right to real estate that limits. If you guys remember yesterday, we talked about estate, right? We talk about estate and we talk about interest. The difference between these is that one has the right of possession, the other one doesn't. Under the ones that don't have the right of possession, right? We have encumbrances and we have public interests. So a bank does not have the right of possession of the property, but they have a claim against the property. If you don't pay, they foreclose. The city does not have the right of possession, but they have an interest or a claim. So if you don't pay, they foreclose, and so on. Okay? So an encumbrance, that's what I was talking about right now, does not include the right of possession. Does not include the right of possession. Do you guys remember the 5 rights that we have with the ownership of a property? You don't? Okay. If you can, write it on the chat real quick. Steph, Maria is regarding fixtures. The rights of ownership or ownership rights, bundle of rights. What do we have? One of them we just talked about, which is the right of possession. That's one of them. The right to transfer. Great. So that means to sell the property, gift the property, right? To encumber, the right to put a mortgage if you want, yes. The right to use, the right to exclude. Perfect. All right. So this is the bundle of rights. You'll find this in the first chapter, in the second chapter, I'm sorry. But these are the rights we have. When we buy something, we have certain rights to it. Okay? We can give it away. We can sell it. We can use it. We can take possession. We can transfer. We can exclude people. Right? These are the rights we have. So an encumbrance does not give anyone the right of possession. Okay? For that reason, not considered an estate. Encumbrances are not estates, they're interests only. All right. Next page, we have the general types of encumbrance. Okay, general types of encumbrance. So one of them has restrictions on the use, owner's use, by the other's rights to use. The other one has restrictions on ownership, value, and transfer. Okay, ownership, value, and transfer. So, depending on the type of encumbrance, it affects the title or usage in different ways. If it's an encumbrance based on use, we have easements, encroachments, licenses, and deed restrictions. What you need to remember about these is that these restrict the use. These restrict the use. So these are considered physical encumbrances. They restrict the use. These are physical encumbrances. Okay. And on the right-hand side, we have restrictions on ownership, value, and transfer. So liens or deed conditions. If you guys remember, property is yours as long as, right? So as long as you use it, Rod, as long as the user has a hospital, right, for hospital purposes, property is yours. Okay? If you screw up and change it to something else, we talked about workspace. If you screw up and use it for something else, you might lose the value. Okay? If it's a life estate, the same thing. There's a condition based on somebody's life. And if it's a lien, there's money involved. You cannot sell the property until the monies or the financial claims are satisfied. So again, money. Okay. Okay. Now, easements. Easements is for the use of another's property. So use of your property. Okay. They're under the column that talks about usage. So easement, there's different types of easements. There's an easement appurtenant and there's easement in gross. These are properties attached, easier to remember this way, and detached. I'm going to show you this in a second. When you have an easement appurtenant, that means that two properties are attached to each other. So it's my property and your property. We are direct neighbors. It's not somebody down the block. It's you're my next door neighbor, and I have the right to use your property. All right? So when we talk about easement appurtenant, think about, for instance, properties with shared driveways. Okay? So with a shared driveway, can you stop me from using the driveway? No. So I have the right to use. An easement is a right to use your half of the property. And guess what? You have the right to use my half of the property. Okay? So an easement is right to use someone else's property. Okay? If it's appurtenant, means they're attached. I'm repeating it. If it's appurtenant, means they're attached. And you cannot stop me from using it. I cannot stop you from using it. Okay? It's attached. Eduardo, like side-by-side duplex with different owners every unit. So, exactly. A duplex has a shared wall. Right? This is our side of the wall. They have their side. So an easement appurtenant exists on the wall. That's what we share. Condos have easement appurtenance because it's shared. There's a limitation on the property. Let's call it the border of our property. All right? You have to maintain your side. I have to maintain my side. Shared driveways. Again, you have to maintain your side, I have to maintain my side. Okay? And then there's easement in gross. Easement in gross is attached property. Now it's the neighbor down the street. Okay? So maybe we are in a community where we share something. As an example, let's say a lake. We share a lake in the community. Now that lake happens to be on your property. And I'm like a mile down, but I'm part of the community. I have the right to use the lake, therefore, I have the right to enter your property to get to the lake. You understand? And you cannot stop me because it's part of the community. Utility companies, they have easement in gross because their property is not attached to your property, but there's the water lines, there's a sewer, there's electric, right? That's not real property, but they have the right to get into your property for maintenance of those units. Does that make sense? So easement in gross, detached property. Like my property does not have to touch yours. Easement appurtenant, our properties are together. Remember that. Okay? Brenda, does it matter if it's rented or sold? So one thing you guys need to remember about easements is that these go with the property. So I'll give you an example. If it's a shared driveway and you decide to rent your unit to somebody else, Brenda, well, your tenant cannot change the fact that it's a shared driveway. The same way that the other owner cannot stop your tenant from using the driveway. So it does not matter if it's sold, it does not matter if it's rented. The rights to use are part of the land. Okay? So we'll talk about it briefly in creation and termination of these easements, but they go with the land. So again, easement, right to use. Easement, right to use. Use what? Someone else's property, okay? It's the right to use someone else's property. Stephanie, like sharing the elements in a condo. You can think about it that way as well, yes. Sharing the elements in a condo. You cannot stop me from using the property. It's shared property, yeah. So like I mentioned, the gated community, for instance, right? We talked about the pool. It's the same thing. It's a shared pool for everybody. Yep. Perfect. All right. Now, the receiver of the easement right is the burdened party, the benefited party, and the giver of the easement right is the burden. Why? Because you're taking advantage of it, you have the benefit. I'm losing, so I have the burden of it. I have to allow you to go through my property, so I have the burden of it. Another way to look at it, we'll talk about it in a little bit, is whoever dominates, right, and whoever serves. It's the same thing. So benefit is the dominant, and the servient is the one with the burden, because they have to allow. Okay. Now, the essential characteristics of easements include the following. The easement must involve the owner of a land over which the easement runs and another non-owning party. It's common sense. You cannot own an easement over your own property. Right? I know we've all heard the term that some people need to ask permission for 1 foot, on 1 foot to move the other, right? Like, hey, could you mind moving? That means people that don't do anything. You're lazy. Ask permission on 1 foot to move the other. You're lazy. In this scenario, would you ask permission to enter your own property? Doesn't make any sense, right? Doesn't make any sense. So for an easement to exist, must be 2 different owners to that land. That's what we're saying here. It's highlighted. For an easement to exist, there must be 2 different owners. Okay? An easement pertains to a specified physical area within the property boundaries, and an easement may be affirmative, allowing the use, such as a right-of-way, or negative, prohibiting the use, such as airspace easement. We talked about airspace with air rights yesterday. That prohibits one property owner from obstructing another owner's view. Right? Those are called air rights. Talked about it yesterday. And then here's just what I was just explaining again. Easement appurtenant means there's two properties are together. They're adjoined properties owned by different parties. And the one that's enjoying the usage, the one that's benefiting from the usage, is called dominant. The one that must serve or allow the user is the servient. So the way I look at it is we have the host and we have the guest. Okay? The dominant. Sorry. No. Nope, the dominant is the guest. The servient is the host. So if you invite me to your house, aren't you the host? Who's benefiting from entering your house and being served?
Yes.
The guest. Exactly. So if you have to go through my property to get to the lake, I'm the host. I'm the one saying, yes, please, come through. Right? You're the one dominating. You're the one that's taking advantage. You're the one benefiting from it. So the dominant is the guest. Okay? While the servient is the host. I'm the host of that benefit that you have. I have to allow you to use it. Okay? You guys good? At home? Okay, if you have questions, please. I know these first couple days get complicated. If you have questions, do ask. All right. Appurtenant, like I said, adjoins or attached to. That's all you need to remember. It's the easiest way to remember. Appurtenant, attached. Next page. Appurtenant, attached. Okay. Okay. I really love these YouTube usernames. The All About Phoenicia channel. Love the thumbs up. Thank you. All right, so let's review this real quick. We just talked about easement appurtenance, easement in gross, right? There's different types of easements, and we talked about also dominant and servient. If you look at it right here, right, we have the public road at the bottom, public road, and then we have three lots, lot 1, 2, and 3. Now, lot 1, right here, if you guys see, lot 1, this is the property. Do they have access to the public road? Do they? In their lot? Look at the lot.
No.
They do not have access. So for them to get to the public road, they have to go through, right here, lot 2's property. What I just highlighted in red, that belongs to lot 2. Okay? So lot 1 is dominant because they step all over lot 2's property. And lot 2, hey, they're the servient, they're the guest, the host, right? So they're saying, yeah, okay, fine, go through. All right? There's something called easement by necessity. That's what it's called. So not only it's an easement appurtenant because it's attached, it's also an easement by necessity because this guy is land locked. Okay, landlocked. They need to get to the public road. I cannot stop you from getting to the public road. You guys understand? So lot 1 is landlocked. They have to go through somebody else's property to get the road. To the road. That's called easements by necessity. I need to. Okay? In this case, lot 1 is the dominant, lot 2 is servient. Okay? By necessity. All right, I'm going to clear this because now we're going to talk about lot number 3. If you see lot number 3, This is the lot's property. Okay. Now, when you look at the map, it's easy. You'd think the lot number 3 can get to the public road, right? But the way it was built, maybe there's no way to get to the public road. That's the fence right there. The way it was built, look, they still have to go through lot number 2. Now, this is a conventional easement or a regular easement. They're not landlocked, right? But it was created this way. They're not landlocked. See, lot 1 needed to go through. Lot 3 could just create a path. But the way, because it was created this way, right? It's like the shared driveway. I still can go through your property. I'm not landlocked, but I can go through your property. Just a conventional easement. I have the right to go through, and you cannot stop me. In this case, again, lot 3 is dominant, and lot 2, please come through. So they're the Serbians. Please come through. Okay, use my property. Okay. So every time you see easement by necessity, means landlocked. Okay.
Diagram like that show up on like a test, like something like that.
It might. Here's more for you to understand. It doesn't usually show up, but it might. Here's more for you to understand the difference between the easements. So if you see by necessity, most of the times you're landlocked. That's the answer. And that's why I highlight things the way I do. It's what's most likely to be asked, or something around there to be asked. Okay. Party wall easement. All right. So you guys asked me about the townhouse, right? They have something called a party wall, right? We're not talking about DJs where there's a party over here and there's a party over there, different DJs, different sounds, different everything. No, we're talking about a condo. We're talking about the townhouse. We're talking about a duplex where there's an owner on this side and there's the owner on the other side. Okay, we talked about this. I have the right to your half of the wall. You have the right to my half of the wall for support, for maintenance, for structure. Because if you destroy your half, what could happen to my half? If you destroy the other side of this wall, say louder, it could damage my side. Simple as that. Okay? So I have a right. You have to maintain your side for support of mine. I have to maintain my side for support of yours. Okay? That's what it is. Easement and gross are already covered for you guys. Easement and gross, we don't have to have an attached property. We just have the right to use the property. Simple. Right to use the property. I'll show you a figure in a second. All right. Okay. So here you go. Remember the lake? Boom. Lake. Okay. Now, an easement in gross, remember it's detached. Easement in gross is detached. If you look at it, lot B, right, is not attached or connected in any way with lot A, right? It's not. But for me to get to the lake, I need to cross the public road, right? And I need to go through lot A's property to take advantage of that lake. That's a personal easement in gross, okay? So I have the right to use your property. It's not attached. It's a personal easement in gross. Where the utility company, right here, has a commercial easement. They can use your property for the power lines, for instance, for utilities. Yeah. That would be great, wouldn't it? No.
So really, like if they put power lines on my property,
You can always use candles. Who has the benefit of those power lines? Yeah. Well, everybody else pays their bill too. But that's the point.
yeah, no.
You can do the candles. You can put a well if you want for the water. As far as gas, I don't know what you would do, but burn wood. That's it. But do you understand? So they have the simple right to use. You already have the benefits for the ease of access. That's what it is. Okay. Any questions here? At home? Any questions? Nope. All right. Cool. Cool. How do you create an easement? Very simple. It could be voluntary. That means we agree to. Okay. By necessity. Right. By necessity means I need it. Right. To get to the public road as an example. And then there's this one. By prescription. Okay. Have you ever heard of, as you guys highlight here, have you ever heard of squatters' rights?
Yes.
Right? At home, have you heard of squatters' rights? Great. So, what I want you to write here, easement by prescription, okay? You're going to write adverse possession. That's another term for it. Adverse possession. Or squatters' rights. I call it abandonment claim. Okay? So an easement by prescription, adverse possession, or squatters' rights means all the same. Okay? It's an abandonment claim. And what does this mean? Before I read this, have you ever found money on the floor? This is the example I give every time. You found money on the floor? Okay? All right, some of you at home, like big cheesy smile, like, yeah, a bunch of money. In fact, I'll look for it. My 14-year-old, when he was 3, that was his job. Not because I asked for it, but he was, for some reason, he was fascinated by money. He was always looking to the floor, like whatever he could find. Anyway, so if you found money, what have you done with that money? Did you raise your hand and start asking around whose money is this? Like $20, $100, whatever it might be. Did you ever do that?
Yeah.
Depends on who's around, and you said yes. You're the only honest person here? He goes like, depends. She's like, You're honest. You're not. He's looking at you like, no, please. You found wallets? With the cash. Scout's honor. Only because there was an ID there. Oh.
No ID. I'm all in. How am I gonna know?
So why did you say yes? He said depends. He was right. You see how we catch people? He said yes, I would return because there's an ID. If there's no ID, I'll keep the money. All right. But the thing is this. If you go around flashing the $100, right? Anybody will say, oh, yeah, it's mine, right? Anybody. So the trick is this. It's like the lost and found, right? You hold on to it for a little bit of time, whatever it might be, right? And when that time is up, if nobody claim it, it's mine, right? That's what happens with real estate as well. If you find an abandoned property, abandoned.
That thing was like a multi-million-dollar house.
Yep.
He claimed it.
Hmm.
And then
That's it.
for like $1,000.
Or less, depending on the state. In Texas, it was $16 to file
I think that was the guy.
the appeal.
About, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's one, the $1 million one, the multi-million-dollar property, the $3-point-something million was in Florida, and the guy screwed up. He was that close. He thought he had it already, and then he started partying like crazy. Cops showed up. Where's the owner? Where's the owner? Boom. You lose it. But anyway, remember this. There's something called B&E. That's breaking and entering. Okay, so there's legal ways to do this. It's actually a legal abandonment claim process. Each state is different. In fact, every country is different. In Portugal, it's 25 years. You have to wait 25 years before you can actually claim it. Nonetheless, you have to file certain things, certain paperwork in order to claim it. Okay?
Multiple people too, right?
Well, kinda. You cannot claim all at once. Are all of us going to break and enter into the same house?
No.
It's not going to be fun, right? Especially because I found your wallet, you know. So the point is, you get into a house and you claim that house as yours, or the right to use the property until the owner shows up. So here, you enter without permission, right? And you claim the property regardless of the owner's desires, okay? But only abandoned properties. Now, why do I say abandoned claim or abandoned property? Again, just like the money. If this person does not show up by the time the prescriptive period is over, they clearly abandon it. In Portugal, like I said, 25 years. If after 25 years you didn't show up to see your property at least once, you abandon the property, right? In New Jersey, 20, 30 years, depending on the type of property. If after 20 years you didn't show up to see the property, you abandoned it. In Florida, 6 years. In Texas, it could be as quick as 5 years, depending on what you do or how you do it. Okay? If people don't show up, don't send not even the maintenance guy or somebody just to inspect the property. Sorry. Right? So here's the thing. For you to get these properties, some of you are like, wow, I only paid $200 to learn how to steal a house. Yeah, so it has to be legal way. Remember, legal way. For prescriptive easement order to be granted, the following circumstances must be true. Adverse and hostile use. So you must have used the property without permission or license. That means you are not a tenant that survived. That means you're not somebody that the owner said, yeah, sure, go ahead, park your car over here, right? If they gave you permission, then it was not a hostile takeover, right? Okay. The other thing, it must have been open and notorious use. What is open and notorious? You cannot hide in the basement. Everybody must know that you're there. There must be eyewitnesses. Okay? So the owner knows or is presumed to know of the use. If they did not show up and if they did not complain, that's their problem. Right? The same way if you lose $100, eventually you realize, I lost $100. If you don't come back to look for it, well, you lost it. If you come back to look for it, hey, did you guys find $100 or a wallet or whatever? Now you're claiming it, right? And I can even tell you, Louis, right, if there's an ID you said you would return with the money and everything, and as a reward, I can tell you, you know what, you can keep the money. Thank you for returning the wallet, right? So I can either give you allow you to continue the use, or I can remove the use from you, right? It's my choice, but you cannot hide it from me. Continuous use. It must be used for an uninterrupted period of time, and that period of time is statutory. That means every state determines the period of time. Like I said, in Jersey, it could be 20, could be 30 years, depending on the type of property. In Florida, 6 years, that's a statutory period of time, right? So as long as you never stopped using the property for that period of time, the property could be yours, right? Now, you mentioned multiple people could use it, right? The answer is yes. You could have been there, for, let's say in Jersey, you could have been there for 5 years. Then you transfer that right to him for another 10 years. Then you transfer that right to her for another 5 years. What is the total? 20. So multiple people were there, and I'm the owner, I never showed up, or I never inspected. As long as you're not hiding it, I just lost the right to use. It's not ownership yet. I lost the right to use. This is all easements. Easements are a right to use. Now, the cool thing about easement by prescription is that you're claiming in front of the judge, you're claiming, hey, I've been using it for 20 years, as an example. I should be able to continue using it. Great. Judge gives you the okay. Now that you got that okay, you can now file a lawsuit for title. Do you want to be the owner of the property? You can. Now it's a separate lawsuit. So there's two steps to this. It's the claiming the right to use, permanent right to use, and claiming the actual ownership. Two steps to this, okay? All right, I got a question here. Andrea M. Yes, in Portugal you call it uso capião. Yep, that's the weird name that we have for it. I found out when I was looking at a property in Portugal a few years ago. Been abandoned for so long, and like, I want to take over this thing. When I found out it was 25 years, I said, I don't want to take over this thing. I'm not going to sit here for 25 years using the property. Anyway, and I found out the legal terms and all that stuff. It's so weird from one...
You have to 5 years in order to...
Well, I don't have to sit, I have to use it. Yeah, for 25 years. And here it's 20 to 30 years, depending on the type of property. The type of property it is, yeah. Yep. But if you don't want to wait that long, go to Florida, 6 years. Better, weather and everything, like so much better than here. And if you get a property there, you can always do Airbnb. They'll give you a lot of money. Anyway. All right, Dre. So in this case, who would be paying the mortgage, or in order to be abandoned property, does it have to be paid off? Great question. Taxes and mortgage and all that good stuff might not matter as long as you put your claim. All right, if you do things right, the right way. So that guy in Texas, he lost it as well. And the guy in Florida lost it before he earned the statutory period, again, because of the party. But during the period of time, some states say that you have to pay taxes. Some states don't care. As long as you use the property and nobody showed up to claim it, it's yours. So what I'm going to... We have a tax chapter, and then even in the tax chapter, there's a state portion. Every state has different rules regarding unpaid taxes. State of New Jersey, after 2 years, if you bought somebody's taxes after 2 years, the way you said, after 2 years, you can claim the property. Okay? So that's what I usually say when it comes to this. Abandoned properties. Look for abandoned properties. Look for unpaid taxes. Do not pay the taxes until they go to auction. Because if you pay the taxes, then guess what? You just pay taxes. He gave you no benefits to it. But if it's abandoned and it goes to auction for taxes or municipal liens, like a water lien or something, and you win, sounds like a grand slam. You just got a property. Congratulations. Okay? So it's a way to accelerate from 20 years to 2 years. That's an example. All right? So again, does the mortgage have to be paid? You're not the one that's on title or have the obligation on the mortgage. Does it come with risks? Yes, because if you don't pay the mortgage, can they foreclose on the property and then you lose everything? Sure, they can. So you have to know which state you're in, what process you need, right? And be aware of the, the risks that it comes with. All right? The next one, eminent domain. Okay, so somebody mentioned yesterday about eminent domain, right, Ron? Okay, so in eminent domain, it means government can take the property away from you. They have the right to take the property from you. But it has to be for greater good. They cannot just say, I want your property. No, I want your property because we're building this. Because we need more space for this. Right? Because we need to improve the aesthetics of the municipality, and these properties are old, or whatever it might be. And by improving the aesthetics, we'll get better homes, we'll get better businesses moving in, and it increases everybody's standards of living in the area. So they cannot just take the property just because. There has to be a good reason behind it. And they have to compensate you. They have to pay you when they take the property. It's not also, hey, I needed to build a school, give me the property, walk away. No, they have to pay you for it. Okay? Next page, encroachments. Under encroachments, I want you to write illegal extension. Or unauthorized intrusion. So, encroachment, as the name says, encroachment is, let's say we have two property lines together, right? And I have my fence. Now, I don't know how, if you guys know how this works, but usually if there's a one fence after another, unless I put a fence all over, right? The way it was built is this fence belongs to me, that fence belongs to you. So it limits my property before yours begin. Can you put another fence on the other side? You can, right? But usually the way it's designed is this is mine and that's yours. Separates yours from the other, right? So let's say I want to replace this fence, okay? I want to replace this fence because it's that metal mesh type of fence, and I want the American dream, the white picket fence, but now it's vinyl. And really tall, because I don't want to see my neighbors. I don't want them to see me. I'm a very private person. So I'm going to put that vinyl fence. So I'm going to remove this one that's right here in the middle, and I'm going to put a new one. And the person that's doing the job made a mistake. Oops, here's the new fence. Wait, wasn't it here? Why is it here now? Okay. This is called encroachment. You're illegally extending into somebody else's property line. Now here's the thing. This 1 foot or 2 feet that we moved into, if that neighbor does not say anything after 20 years, what can I do? Why? Abandonment, adverse possession, easement by prescription, squatter's rights. I'm now using your property. It's open and notorious. It's open and notorious. Everybody's seeing this. I just moved my fence over to somebody else's property line that never said anything. He's done it. He's doing it now.
He did it already.
That's why he was so quick to answer it.
Say if another person moves into the house next door. Again, I guess it's still abandonment. They're not really aware of the.
That's why surveys are so important. Everybody buying a house should have a survey. You guys got it at home? Always survey. Very important, because your neighbor might be on your property.
What do you mean survey?
So it comes when you're buying. There's a surveyor. You can hire a surveyor, like $500 or $600, depending on the property. They come and see the property based on whatever the city has and previous plans they found, and they're going to see where your property lines are. You're going to draw what your property lines should be and where you are right now.
So what if we notice that our property has less? Anything?
Absolutely. Let's say you're the neighbor, and he's encroaching onto your property, right? You just bought the property a year ago, as an example, and you said, I thought the lot was 25 by 100. It looks like it's like 5 feet shy, so it's 20 instead of 25, right? Let me get a survey. You bring a survey, it goes to the city hall, gets the property lines, all that stuff, and you realize now, wait a minute, I lost 5 feet in, right? But don't forget, it's 5 feet times the 100, right? That's a lot of property. Can you claim it? Yeah, because it's yours. Unless he already claimed the abandonment. If you already claimed the easement by prescription, sucks for you. You bought a property that was already lost. At least that piece of property. You got it?
So how does he get that?
He has to wait the prescriptive period of time. And after, let's say, 20 years, he has to go to claim his right to use. Okay, but only after that period of time. Okay, you guys good at home? You got it? You understood? Right? Ladiana, any question? We're good. So that's illegal extension right there. Okay? Encroachments do not appear on title records, and again, that's why a survey is very important. Okay? Next is licenses. Okay. So a license is not an easement because a license is not a right. Okay? It's not an easement. A license is permission. So it's revocable at any time because it's only a permission. You guys have a driver license? Okay. Who does that license belong to? State of New Jersey, for instance. So it's not your driver license, it's a state of New Jersey driver license. And it says right there, you might be revoked at any time. Social Security number, do you have it?
Yes.
You have that card?
Yes.
What does it say in the back? It could be revoked at any time. It could be taken by the state at any time, by the government at any time. So even Social Security is just a license. Isn't that crazy? Well, for them to take it, something must have happened. Like, for instance, no value. Oh, we keep on printing so much money that there's no value. So Social Security is saying, hey, we kept all your gold. Right? If you guys look at the history of Social Security, Federal Reserve, and all that stuff, Social Security is a certificate to the gold. And the more money you make working, instead of having your gold or earning your gold, you're contributing towards Federal Reserve, towards all that stuff that the United States owes other people. Long story. That involves England, involves a bunch of stuff. So what they're saying is, hey, you've made $100,000. We will contribute that, or we know that there's that money in gold, and we'll contribute that towards your retirement. It's like a reserve they put towards your retirement. Simple. If the gold is worthless, why should they pay you? They keep on diluting the value so much that the dollar is worthless. Well, the more stimulus come out, the more printing comes out, quantitative easements, the less it's worth. So it used to be, as an example, $1 used to equal $1 of gold, as an example, right? They've printed so many dollars that now it's $1 is like 0.0001 of gold, as an example. It's worthless. Anyway, it's all that's a different story. Fiat money and a bunch of BS. It's not even your dollar. Anyway, Eduardo, a new owner can make a claim at the moment he buys the property. Absolutely. The new owner, when he sees the property, should have the survey before he buys the property and therefore say, get out of my property. Absolutely. Yep. That's why, again, surveys are so important. All right. Next thing we have deed restrictions. What we need to remember is that these are private. Every time you see deed restrictions, it's private parties, not government. You need to remember that. For instance, I sold the property to you as long as you're alive. There's a restriction on the deed. I sold the property to you as long as you use it for hospital purposes. There's a deed restriction. Okay? So these are private parties. If we see deed restrictions, it has nothing to do with the government. Government is zoning, for instance. Taxation, for instance. That's government. If it's deed, if it's a restriction from the seller to the buyer, from the developer to the buyers. Okay? It's always private, between private parties. Okay? Private party, right here. Private. These restrictions apply to land use, size of the type of structures may be placed on the property, minimum cost of structures, engineering, architectural, aesthetics, blah, 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 blah. So condos. If you own a condo, can you change or alter the structure?
You're inside your.
Inside you can, outside you cannot. So there's a deed restriction that came with the master deed. You guys remember that from the previous chapter? The master deed is for the whole subdivision, right? And it restricts on what you can and cannot do with it. These are some of the restrictions. Very good. This chapter is going way easier than the previous ones, right? All right. Liens. You guys already know what a lien is. Money. Perfect. Money. So there's a financial claim. Every time you see lien, look at the question. All these are examples of liens except. You're going to look for the 4 answers. So the same scenario we did. We look at the 4 answers. And you're going to eliminate which ones have nothing to do with money. The one that has nothing to do with money is not a lien. Okay? You guys got it? Simple. So word association. If it's a lien, it has to do with a financial claim. So you look for mortgage, you look for taxes, you look for unpaid construction. And now they're putting a judgment against you. All right? So that's how we're going to finish. We're going to talk about money. Claims against your property. A lien is a creditor's claim or a financial claim against the property. Financial claim against the property. Used as security, as we said before, right? Used as security, or also called collateral. Right? For a debt or of the property owner. Okay? You want money to buy the house? No problem. Let me put a lien against the house that you're buying. Your house is the security. If you don't pay us back, we'll keep your house. You want to buy the car and drive it off the lot as you're buying it? Not like in the old days, right? You want to drive right there and then? Great. We're just putting a lien against your car. The moment you drive off the lot, there's a lien. If you don't pay, we're going to repo. Simple. We get the property back. Question? Oh, I thought you were going to ask a question. But that's what it is. Okay. Next page, what do we have? Liens have the following legal features. Liens have the following legal features. A lien does not convey ownership. Okay? Does not convey ownership. A lien gives an interest in the property or a claim or benefit in the property, but it does not convey ownership. With one exception, again, different states, different rules. In certain states, we have what's called a title theory state. We are a lien theory state. But in a title theory state, it operates like a car, right? When you finance a car, and don't worry, we're going to repeat all this. So if it gets confusing right now, we're going to repeat all this in a different chapter. But when you buy a car, who gets the title? No.
Finance?
A third party, but not you. A third party gets the title, but not you. Until you pay back the bank. So what the bank is doing is securing the title with somebody else, so a third party. And if you don't pay, that third party goes and collects the car, right, on behalf of the bank. They sell the car, right? And whatever money they recover, they give to the bank. So with a car, that's what happens. In the title theory state for property, it's the same way. You buy the house, you get the money, right? But they give the title to the house to a third party until you pay it off. Once you finish paying it off, then they release the title to you, and that's it. In Jersey, for instance, you are the owner. You get the deed under your name from day one. Okay? If you don't pay, they take you to court, foreclose, and all that stuff. You guys got it? Good. So there's two. There's title theory and lien theory. We'll talk about that better in a different chapter. Another thing you need to remember is that a lien attaches to the property. not the property owner. Okay? It attaches to the property, not to the property owner. What does that mean? If I get a mortgage on my property and I sell the property to you without paying the mortgage, right? Guess what? If I don't pay that mortgage and if you don't pay that mortgage, you're going to lose the property. Not me, because I already sold it to you. The lien goes with the property. The debt goes with me. But when I sold to you, the lien does not disappear against the property. It needs to be paid off. And that's why a lien is an encumbrance. Right? You cannot transfer the property. I mean, you can under certain circumstances, but you cannot transfer the property without paying off the lien to protect the lender and to protect the new owner. The lien goes with the property, not with the property owner. You got it? Okay. A property may be subject to multiple liens. So we can have a first lien, which is a first mortgage, for instance. We can have a second lien, which could be a second mortgage. It could be a mechanics lien because you did not pay work that was done on the property. It could be a tax lien. It could be a water lien. These are multiple liens, multiple financial claims against the property, all due to unpaid bills. A lien terminates once you pay it off. Simple, right? Yes? No. When you pay it off and record the release. Okay? So I asked this so you guys have an alert somewhere. If you have a bill, if you have a mortgage, if you have anything that's against your property, okay, even against the car, when you finish paying it off, when the balance is zero, demand a copy of that release. Very, very important. Okay? There was a couple in Florida that the house was paid off and the bank foreclosed on them. The house was paid off for like 10 years already. The bank foreclosed on them. Because back in 2008, 9, and so on, the mortgages were such a mess in that mortgage crisis that we had, were such a mess that records were lost. And they were transferring from one bank to another. Like, nobody had the record that the house was paid off. And the lien was never released. So they went and foreclosed on a fully paid off property. Okay? Of course, they did not win after that. They were able to go after the bank, but just a headache. Right? And sheriff knocking at your door saying, leave the house that you paid off years ago. Right? So make sure if you finish paying it off, balance reaches zero, always demand a release. That's what it is. Just paying it off does not mean anything until you have the release. Okay? The next thing we have is that liens may be voluntary or involuntary. I just want to touch these words real quick. What does the word voluntary mean? Forget real estate. Just the word itself, voluntary. Anybody? What is it?
Not being told.
Do without being told? Okay, that's one way. At your will. Willingly, that's what I have here. In agreement, with consent. You voluntarily doing something. Listen, I can tell you to do it, right? You can choose to do it or not. But I like the way you put it. Yes, do it without being told. That's actually called initiative. It's a little different. Voluntary initiative. What about involuntary? Again, you can be told and you can do it voluntarily or you can do it involuntarily. Against your will. So voluntarily, it is your will to do it. Involuntary, it's not your will. So how do we apply this to real estate? What is a voluntary lien? It's one that you chose to have. Can anybody give me examples of a lien that you chose to have? Something that you said, hey, put it against my house because I want it. Equipping mortgage. Perfect. Why a refinance? Why not the first mortgage when you bought the house? Didn't you ask for the money? Right. In exchange, you said, hey, put a lien against my house. So a mortgage is a voluntary lien. You asked for it. What about an example of involuntary lien? Something you never ask for it, but it's always there. Taxes, Andrea, right there. Taxes. Who asked for taxes? Raise your hand if you ever said, hey, tax me. Anybody? No? No? You guys are, nobody? That's why it's involuntary. You still have to pay, right? But nobody wants to pay, right? So it's involuntary liens. Very good. Okay? And then we have general and specific liens. All right? All about Phoenicia Channel said mortgage. Great. All right. General liens and specific liens. What's the difference between these two? A specific lien is specifically against that item. For instance, if you have a car and it's financed and you don't pay the bill on that car, you don't pay the financing on the car, can they come after your house? No, because the lien is specific against the house. I mean the car, sorry, right? If you have a mortgage, it's the same thing. It's specific against that collateral. If you have taxes, same thing. It's specific against the house. So let's say I have 3 properties, A, B, and C. I don't pay taxes on property A. Can they come after B and C? No, because taxes are specific against the property, right? So specific liens are against that one item, and they cannot come after anything else. Single item, okay? Where a general lien goes against everything you have. A general lien affects everything you have. For instance, you have a house, you have a car, you have a checking account, you have a savings account, you have a driver's license, you have a passport, you have your tax returns, you have your 401k, you have your IRA. Does anybody know anything that will go against all of these? Any example of a lien that can go against all of these? Something financial that could screw up your whole life. Bankrupt is a reset of your financial life. Brenda, I knew you were laughing for a reason. Child support. Child support, that's right. That's one of them. Right? That's number 2. What's number 1 of things that could screw up your life?
Alimony.
Alimony. That's a good one. But no, not this, not the top one. Student loans, not at all. Just affects your credit. That's it. But they don't come after your income. IRS, Dre got it. So federal taxes. So federal taxes and child support are the 2 worst enemies of the Americans. Okay? The 2 worst enemies. Because if you don't pay child support, if you don't pay your federal taxes, they can come after your checking account, your savings account, your job, so they can put a levy against your wages. They can even revoke your passport and your driver's license. Driver's license does not make sense to me because I need the driver's license to go to work, so why would you revoke that? But anyway, but they come after everything you have. That's called general lien. So anything that could affect everything you have, or more than one things, it's called a general lien. Medical bills, right? Medical is from you going to the doctor, right? Hospital, whatever. But they can put something against your house as well. They can try to levy your wages. So again, because they can go against more than one items, they are general lien. So it's one that's placed against any and all real and personal property. Against any and all real and personal property. All right, the last thing we have is lien priority. Okay, there are superior liens and there's inferior liens, right? And I'm going to show you right now. How do we establish priority? First thing is, by the way, priority is in terms of foreclosure. If you get foreclosed, right, who gets paid first in the foreclosure? So for us to figure that out, we need to figure out first, is this a superior lien or a junior lien? Okay? And then the second thing is, when was it recorded into public records? All right? So, here you go. Next page. Superior liens. Superior liens are real estate taxes, special assessments, which are part of real estate taxes, federal estate taxes, and inheritance taxes. Notice that it does not say IRS. If you get foreclosed, who gets paid first? What you need to remember, by the way, they'll never ask you 3 and 4, but what you need to remember for state exam, taxes, real estate taxes, always are first. No matter what, real estate taxes are always first. They have priority over anything else. Junior liens, their priority is based on when they were recorded in public records. So junior liens could be, now we're talking about IRS, federal income taxes. It could be state corporate or income tax liens. It could be state intangible tax liens, judgment liens, mortgage liens, vendors liens, or mechanics liens. These will be after taxes. So if you don't pay your mortgage, it goes through foreclosure. Who gets paid first? If you don't pay your mortgage and you get foreclosed, who gets paid first? Taxes, real estate taxes, always first. Not IRS, real estate taxes. Okay, always first. Okay, and that's what we have here. Just a few examples. We're done, by the way, but just a few examples here. The rule is pretty much first in time, first in line. After figuring out if it's a junior or a superior lien. Okay, first in time, first in line. So if I have a first mortgage, let's say I'm Bank of America, and I finance the purchase of your house. I said we're done, and Ron runs away. Oh, he's back. All right. So let's say I finance the purchase of your house, Bank of America, right? I record today. You show up tomorrow to do some work on my property, right? And I don't pay you. Who has priority? I just want to make sure you guys were paying attention. Let me show you. It's always distributed in this order. Taxes. Then it's the first mortgage, whoever recorded first. There's only one thing that will be different, which is this one right here. Mechanics lien. Now, a mechanics lien is when somebody doesn't pay the work that was done. That's what I was trying to explain till I noticed all the distractions. If I do work on your property and you don't pay me, right, I'm going to have to take you to court to get paid. The problem with court is that it takes a long time before I get a judgment where I can now put a lien against you. Mechanics lien is the only one that's retroactive. It's the only one that's retroactive to the day it began. The day that it was work began, the day the material was delivered. It's the only one that's retroactive. Everything else is based on when they recorded. So what I was asking you guys is, I bought a property, got Bank of America, right? A month later, I decided to do work on the property, but I don't pay. 2 months later, because I did work, property went up in value, I got a second mortgage. And then 3 years later, I get a judgment. Who gets paid first? The answer is taxes. Then it's the first mortgage because it's the first thing I got. And then it's the mechanics lien. Even though it came 3 years later, it was based on work that was done before the second mortgage. That's why it's retroactive. That's why it jumps up in line. You guys got it? Mechanics lien always jump up in line to when the work began. Okay. This right here, superior liens, we already talked, is about real estate tax and special assessments. We have a chapter dedicated to this, so you can highlight if you want, or we can do it when we get to that chapter. Totally up to you. Okay, you also have it on the ebook. You can review it there. Okay. And judgment lien, that means somebody... I'm skipping because we already talked about this, or we're going to talk more in detail in different chapters. Judgment lien, that means the judge made a decision, like I said, on the monies that you owe me, and I put a lien against you. Okay. Mortgage and trust deed lien means what? There's a mortgage against the property. That's it. Mechanics lien, I already told you, is based on work that was done. So construction. It's a construction lien. That's all it is. Okay, this is just terminology. Again, you guys can go over it if you want. I explained either in class or we'll go in detail in a different chapter. Okay, this is what I just said. Mechanics lien has priority based on when it was first delivered or work completed, depending on what the judge determines. Right? And foreclosure, we're going to talk about it better in a different chapter as well, but there's different types of foreclosure. Here's the foreclosure process, just so you guys understand. There's judicial foreclosure, there's non-judicial foreclosure. I'm going to skip strict foreclosure for now. Judicial foreclosure, we go to court. Jersey, for instance. We're in a judicial state. Non-judicial, they treat it like your car. You don't pay, they come and repo the house. Right? It's not like they can get a tow truck and take it away, but they don't have to go to court. That's what we're saying. So here, all I want you to write is we skip court. We skip court. That's the only thing. So instead of taking 3 years to get the property, it takes 3 months to get the property. Okay? Instead of taking 3 years, it takes 3 months. Okay? That's it. So, what I just explained right now, we will go in detail in a different chapter regarding foreclosures. But judicial foreclosure, again, in states, that's lien theory, where the other foreclosure is in states, that's title theory. Okay? All this, guys, you can go over if you want. We'll cover them more in detail in a different chapter. Any questions? Okay. All right. So for those of you that missed yesterday, I just want to bring something up real quick. So I have Brenda, Marlon, and then you guys here. Just want to mention real quick for you to get access to the student portal and to get the Zoom and all that stuff. If you have not done it yet, go to newdirection.school/untold access. Okay? If you have an active purchase, which you guys have, it will automatically open the student portal for you. So it's untold access. For you guys that already have the access, on the right-hand corner, you click Student Login. If you already created your access, you just put your email and your password. You log in. Okay. And here's the student portal, right? So in the student portal, there's always going to be the Zoom link to get into this class. There's the attendance app link for iOS and for Android. Okay. Here's your resources, access to your course resources. And there's a Facebook group. Okay. There's a WhatsApp group, which I highly recommend everybody to be part of. So make sure you go there and click the link, the WhatsApp group. You can download the ebook. You can access Quizlet. Okay. The YouTube channel, all the resources are here, including the class calendar, where you can see the days that you missed, and you can figure out when to cover class calendar.
Is there an app for this?
Oh, it's not an app. It's a website, but it's mobile friendly. Okay.
So New Direction.
It's newdirection.school. If you did not get the access yet, for those of you that did, just go to student login. For those of you that didn't, like you guys, newdirection.school/untold access. Untold access. If you have not paid for this, you will not have access even if you register. If you have paid for it, then you'll have the access to the student portal. So this is the, I was mentioning, the class calendar shows day class, night class, and so on. And you can choose there, for instance, you guys missed yesterday chapter 1, 2, and 3. So you see here on April 7th, right? It says chapter 1, 2, and 3 at 10 o'clock in the morning. Right? So whatever chapters you missed, you can make up those days if you want. Or you can also wait for the next evening class, which starts the week right after you finish your classes here in the evening. Right? The other thing you have there is the class replay. So whatever chapters you missed will be in the class replay, and all the chapters are there. Okay, so it might not be your class per se. Those are classes that I recorded before. But you go through every single one if you want. Okay, I know it's still updating there. Dre, do we have class tomorrow? Yes, we do. And then we don't have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. We will be back Monday. All right, guys. Steph, Nori. I'll see you guys tomorrow if you have no questions. If you have questions, reach out to me on WhatsApp. All right? And I'll answer those questions. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Do you prefer us to join Zoom or the live YouTube stream?
Because you have to do the hours, it has to be Zoom. YouTube is not. YouTube is just for me to help students from other schools.